Assalamualaikum, and today we are continuing where we left off. So this is the part 3 video. Because this chapter is a little bit longer, I need to make a 3 part. So let's continue. Today we are talking about the vision of this war have been illustrated in 3 versions. First, having noticed the spread of his offspring, increase of his poverty and exalt of his honor after Hulai's death, Qusay found himself more entitled than the tribe of Khuza'ah and Bani Bakr to shoulder the responsibility of rulership over Mecca and custodianship of the sacred house. He also advocated that Quraysh were the chief of Ismail's descendants. He consulted Quraysh and Kinana to expel Khuza'ah and Bani Bakr from Mecca, and they supported him. Second, the Khuza'ah claimed that Hulay requested Qusay to hold custodianship of Al-Kaaba and rulership of Mecca after his death. The third, Hulay gave the right of Al-Kaaba service to his daughter Hoba and appointed Abu Qusan of Al-Khuzai to function as her agent thereof. Upon Hulay's death, Qusay bought this right for a latter bag of wine, which aroused dissatisfaction among the men of Khuza'ah, and they tried to keep the custodianship of the sacred house away from Qusay. The latter, however, with the help of Quraysh and Kinana, managed to take over and even to expel Khuza'ah completely from Mecca. Whatever the throne might have been, the whole affair resulted in the deprivation of Sufa of the privileges previously mentioned, evacuation of Khuza'ah and Bakr from Mecca, and transfer of rulership over Mecca and custodianship of the holy sanctuary to Qusay after a fierce war between Qusay and Khuza'ah, inflicting heavy casualties on both sides. Reconciliation and the arbitration of Yamur bin from the tribe of Bakr. Host judgment entailed eligibility of Qusay rulership over Mecca and custodianship of the sacred house. Qusay irresponsibility for Khuza'ah bloodshed and imposition of blood money on Khuza'ah and Banu Bakr. Qusay reign over Mecca and the sacred house began in 440 CE and allowed him and the Quraysh after him absolute rulership over Mecca and undisputed custodianship of the sacred house, to which Arab from all over Arabia came to pay homage. Qusay brought his people to Mecca and allocated it to them, allowing Quraysh some dwelling there. Unknowns, the family of Safwan Adwan Mu'adh bin Auf preserved the same right they used to enjoy before his arrival. A significant achievement credited to Qusay was the establishment of An-Nadwa House, an assembly house, of the northern side of the Al-Kaaba to serve as a meeting place for the Quraysh. This was very beneficial for the Quraysh because it secured unity of opinion among them and cordial solution to their problem. Qusay enjoyed the following privileges of leadership and honor: presiding over An-Nadwa house meeting. The consultation relating to serious issues were conducted there, and marriage contracts were announced. The war standard, there could be no declaration of war with his approval or the approval of one of his sons. The third, caravan leader. He was the commander of all caravans. No caravan from Mecca could depart, be it for all trade or otherwise, except under his authority or the authority of one of his sons. And 4, the doorkeeper of Al-Kaaba. He was the only one eligible to open its gate and was responsible for its service and protection. The 5th, providing water for the pilgrims. They would fill basins sweetened by date or reason for the pilgrim visiting Mecca to drink, and since feeding pilgrims, this means making food for pilgrims who could not afford it. Qusay even imposed on Quraysh annual land tax for food paid at the season of pilgrimage. It is noteworthy, however, that Qusay singled out Abdul Manaf, a son of his, for honor and prestige, though he was not his eldest son, which is Abdul was, and entrusted him with such responsibility as saving of An-Nawwah house, the standard, the doorkeeping of Al-Kaaba, providing water and food for pilgrims. Due to the fact that Qusay deeds were regarded as unquestionable and his order inviolable, his death gave no rise to conflict among his sons, but later it did among his grandchildren, for no sooner than Abdul Manaf had died, his son began to have wars with their cousin, son of Abdul Dar, which would have given rise to conflict and fight among the whole tribe of Quraysh, and had it not been for a peace treaty. Thereby posts were relocated to preserve feeding and providing water for pilgrims for the sons of Abdul Manaf, while An-Nawwah house, the flare and the doorkeeping of Al-Kaaba were maintained for the son of Abdul Dar. The sons of Abdul Manaf, however, cast the lot for their charge. Consequently, they left the charge of food and water given to Hashim bin Abdul Manaf, upon whose death the charge was to be taken over by a brother of his called Al-Muttalib bin Abdul Manaf. After him, it was to be taken by Abdul Muttalib bin Hashim, the Prophet's grandfather. His son assumed this position until the rise of Islam, during which Abbas bin Abdul Muttalib was in charge. Many other posts were distributed among people of Quraysh for establishing the pillar of a new democratic minor state with government office and councils similar to those of today. Enlisted as follows are some of these posts. So number 1, casting the lots for the idols was allocated to Bani Juma. 2, noting of offer and sacrifice. The settlement of dispute and relevant issues were to lie in the hands of Bani Saim. 3, consultant was to go to Bani Asad. 4, organization of blood money and fine was with Bani Tayyim. 5, bearing the national banner was with Bani Umayyah. 6, the military institute, footmen and cavalry would be Bani Makhzum responsibility. And 7, Bani Adi would function as a foreign ambassador. So what we learned so far is how the Quraysh came to Mecca and exiled the people there, most notably Khuza'ah, which caused Khuza'ah bloodshed. And over time, the Quraysh started their business there, helping pilgrims who came to Mecca. And then we get to Al-Muttalib, who is the Prophet's grandfather. So that is the summary of it. Now we get to the next topic. The rulership in Pan-Arabia. We have previously mentioned the Qahtani and Adnanite immigration and division of Arabia between those two tribes. Those tribes dwelling near Heva were subordinate to the Arabian king of Heva, while those dwelling in the Syrian deserts were under the domain of the Ghassanites, a sort of dependency that was in reality a formal rather than actual. However, those living in the far off desert areas enjoyed full autonomy. These tribes in fact had heads chosen by the whole tribe, which was a demi-government based on the tribal solidarity and collective interest in defense of land and property. Heads of tribe enjoyed dictatorial privileges similar to those of kings, and were rendered full obedience and subordination in both war and peace. Rivalry among cousins of rulership, however, often drove them to outdo one another in entertaining guests, affecting generosity, wisdom, and chivalry for the sole purpose of outranking their rivals and gaining fame among people, especially power who were the official spokesman at that time. Head of the tribe and the master had special claim to spoil of war, such as one-fourth of the spoils. Whatever he chose for himself or found on his way back, or even the remaining indivisible spoils. This means that because of their rivalry and their means to outdo one another, cause instability among them. And last but not least, we are talking about the political situation. The three Arab regions adjacent to foreigners suffered great weaknesses and inferiority. The people there were either master of slave rulers or subordinate masters, especially for the foreigners, had claimed to every advantage, while slaves had nothing but responsibilities to shoulder. In other words, absolute rulership brought about violation on the right of subordinates, ignorance, oppression, inequality, injustice, and hardship, and turning them into people groping in darkness and ignorance. So fertile land rendered its fruit to the ruler of men power to extravagantly spend on their pleasure and enjoyment. Wishes and desire, oppression and aggression. So fertile lands render its fruit to the ruler and men of power to extravagantly spend on their pleasure and enjoyment. Wishes and desire, oppression and aggression. The tribes living near this region were moving between Syria and Iraq, whereas those living inside Arabia were disunited and governed by tribal conflict and racial and religious dispute. They had neither a king to maintain their independence nor a supporter to seek advice from or depend upon in hardships. The ruler of Hijaz, however, were greatly esteemed and respected by the Arabs, and were considered as ruler and servant of the religious center. Rulership of Hijaz was, in fact, a mixture of the secular and official superiority, and as well as religious leadership. They ruled among the Arabs in the name of religious leadership and always monopolized the custodianship of the holy sanctuary and its neighborhood. They looked after the interests of Al-Kaaba visitor and were in charge of putting Ibrahim Code into effect. They even had such officers and departments like those of the parliament of today. However, they were too weak to carry the heavy burden, and this eventually came to light during the Abyssinian Ethiopian invasion. So this last topic that I talk about is about corruption and political tension between the tribe their race, and much more of that. And this chapter, all the topic end with the Abyssinian, which is from Ethiopia, which is said in the book about invading it. So that is all I have to say for today. The next video we are talking about the religions of Arab, and it will be quite interesting. So that's all for today, and Assalamualaikum.